you. All right.
Thank you,
Albina.
Lisa. Yeah, I think people can also write your names. Where are you from? Which city you love? We were talking about Central Asia. How hot is it and how tasty is the food? So you can share in the chat. And meanwhile, we can move to the next slide just to talk about this is us, Yolanda and me. And we are helping to facilitate community of practice, which you are now. And our agenda, yeah, like simple tips. Please know that meeting is being recorded, so you'll have slides recordings later at our usepower.org website. If you have any issues, please, as usual, contact our amazing Katie Pons in private message. Yeah, please post any questions in the chat. We always look at what you're writing. And so we can move to the next agenda. Why we gathered today virtually. We will, as we said, we will introduce what is HEET. Yolanda will share what's the goal of our community of practice, because every time we have new people joining, which is amazing. Today we have a learning meeting, so we will learn a lot about what is positive use development from Maria. And you'll have a chance to ask questions you really want to know about. Because from other meetings, we heard a lot that people interested in positive use development, how higher education can engage more with such approach, and to be more kind of learner-centered. Then we will have our group members discussion, brainstorming on how does it actually apply in practice. How do you contextualize this information? Because we know context matters in development, and we will share next steps. What our plans. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Albina. So as Albina mentioned, there are a lot of new colleagues come on board. So it's important for us to remember why we're here today. And the idea, you see the objective here and our goal, but the idea is really to help bridge a gap between higher education and youth programming. USAID does all this investment programming for youth. And at the same time, USAID finances a lot of higher education programming. Do they talk to each other? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So that's why we are bridging, we want to bridge the gap here. Hear from higher education representatives, hear from youth representatives, and really move forward this agenda to bridge the gap. So that's really what this community of practice is trying to achieve. And it wouldn't be nothing without you all. So next slide. So let's, sorry, do you want to do it, Albina, or me? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it's me doing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what we talked about our last meeting, we had already several meetings, as Yolanda said. We are very active, so thanks for you coming, listening to us every time, spending your time. So what you told us during our last meeting in June, we divided you into 3 groups based per your interest. And each group shared what they're interested in, what they want to work further together as a community. The first group was about data and evidence on the effectiveness of higher education programming and positive youth development approach. To put simply, people talked about that they want to learn more success stories about what is positive youth development. And today's meeting comes from this interest, and how actually universities around the world capturing this approach, what they're doing with this. And we wanted together to develop document, or maybe mapping document, to share how PYD looks in higher education. Second group, they were interested about higher education and industry relationship. It was mainly about developing employability skills, workforce development, which I think very interesting topic. And this group really wanted to have more private sector people, business people, to engage in our community and tell what they're looking for. Because we hear always, like McKinsey telling this, or kind of other groups, that employers are not satisfied with the skills graduates have. But can we really have these employers around us? So please do invite all your friends from private sector. And the last group, they talked about tourism and higher education, which also interesting. And nowadays, with sustainable development goals and SDG 8 especially, people interested about sustainable travel, how organizations working on it. And also they really want virtual networking to share again success stories. So for us, from recap from last meeting, what we learned is that you want to network, you want to learn. So we are running such webinar for you, and you want to share success stories from different stakeholders, different actors, private sector, state, civil society, youth. So we are here together, and we really want. Next slide, please. Yeah, so do you have any questions, suggestions? Because not only us talking heads, we want to hear from you. So if anyone has questions up to this moment, you can please put in a chat or unmute yourself. If you don't, we can move forward. So we see people saying hi, Kendra, Noor, Joanna, Thomas, so many amazing people here. I think we can move to the next slide to save your time. Please.
So thank you, yeah, and keep keep going into the chat. So today we're really privileged to have Maria, and Maria has been working in the field of youth empowerment, youth education, management projects related to youth forever. You can read her bio right here, but she has the most extensive network that I know of. She knows how to work at higher education levels, at youth level, at secondary education levels. She knows how to integrate all the youth programming into all the other multi-sectoral opportunities that are available through US government programming, but also British FCDO, British programming, as well as education, as well as European community programming. So she's got this amazing background that is so helpful to us. So her job today is going to hold our hand and make us understand what positive youth development is really about, what it means, and even what USAID is doing, because the funding that we're talking about for youth programming essentially comes from USAID. Next slide. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. I think I will share my slides now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I hope I can live up to the expectations that Yolande has raised. So don't hesitate to ask questions at the end. In the interest of time, I will just go through and not stop for questions throughout the presentation, but we'll have time at the end. So just very quickly, as you know, this is the YP2LE, Youth Power to Learning and Evaluation project, and it's based on positive youth development. And so you probably have all heard the term positive youth development throughout your meetings, but really what it means and what it means for higher education, that's what we are talking about today. So, and particularly looking at what it means in low and middle income countries. But before we jump into some of the details, Yolande also asked me to give a little bit of that background of, why PYD and how does it relate to USAID. So USAID in 2012 published its youth strategy, and where they looked at providing youth with access to economic and social opportunities, allowing more fully participation in democratic and development processes, and providing youth with a stronger voice. And so that, and actually USAID is just about to update that and that strategy. So there should be a new one coming out soon. And all that was driven based on some of the challenges that youth are facing. You know, obviously none of these are really new to you, because it's, you know, it was driven by the fact that youth constitutes a large proportion of the population in many of the low and middle income countries, almost in all of them. It's like 30% or more in all of those green countries, and 20% or more in all of the orange countries. So huge groups of the population. And then obviously many of them are facing big challenges in terms of education. You may have heard of the NEETs, the youth that are neither in education, employment, or training. The fact that there's high unemployment, the fact that there's in many of the countries security issues, representation issues, health issues. So those were the challenges that I think motivated USAID to look at youth as a specific element, and then of its programming. And so it, you know, in the past, you know, several years ago, youth was considered very often as a challenge or as a problem. You know, they might be the ones that cause riots, etc. And so USAID intentionally took a look of positive youth development. And I think you've seen this chart probably on several occasions, where we look at youth as an asset. We focus on providing youth with agency, with the ability to contribute, and surrounding them with an enabling environment. And so has it actually worked? And I will focus a little bit more on the workforce and employment related aspects today, rather than some of the other aspects of positive youth development that apply to other sectors. But the Youth Power Learning Project did a systematic review at the beginning of its program, and really showed that taking a positive youth development approach in workforce related or employment related programs has definitely shown a positive impact. It increased employment, it increased assets and earnings, and it improved the work experience, among many other things. So taking this now into kind of the higher education environment, you know, if we consider higher education to have key roles in preparing youth for employment, preparing youth for self-employment, and preparing them for science and research, we will see, you know, among the more specific issues that that we can see, there is mismatches and gaps. So the skills, there are mismatches in skills. For example, hard skills. There was a research that was carried out several years ago in Africa that looked at youth and employed youth, and even employed youth had mismatches in terms of being either underskilled or overskilled. There are technology mismatches. Many times the laboratories, the labs in the universities or in the higher education institutions don't apply the technologies, don't have the equipment that's actually applied by the potential employers. Many times those are outdated. And very often there is also a lack of soft skills, a mismatch in expectations for soft skills. And some of the reasons behind that is it's a lot harder to measure soft skills. There are also often wrong expectations, and it's often not taught in the education system. But a project by Youth Power Action about 3 years ago, I believe it was, looked at key soft skills for workforce success, and they identified 5 or 6 actually really important soft skills that are important for employment and for either self-employment or employment. And so obviously these also apply to higher education, not just other employment-related activities. And so just to look at why perhaps some of those soft skills gaps might exist, one of our grantees under Youth Power Learning did a study that looked at educators' expectations about soft skills, youth expectations about soft skills, and then employer expectations about soft skills. And they looked at, for example, conscientiousness, agreeableness, emotional stability, openness, and extroversion. And you will see the left column, the blue one, is how youth rated themselves at the time when the evaluation took place. Then the yellow one is what youth thought an ideal employee should have as a capability, and the black one is what the employers thought the ideal candidate should have. And you can see a gap, and in some cases quite big gaps in all areas where youth underestimates the extent of the soft skills that are necessary for employment. And that's particularly important in, for example, the direct service groups or the production areas, less actually noticeably in the business areas, I guess because youth are already expecting, or the expectations are matching up better. So just to say, soft skills, obviously a really important aspect of the whole positive youth development perspective and the skills that are required. So now coming back to the PYD elements, we talked about the PYD domains, which is the ones that you usually hear about, which is assets, contribution, agency, and the enabling environment. But in order to analyze it a little bit in more detail, it makes more sense to look at the features. So the PYD features, and that was also developed under the Youth Power Learning environment, they are the skill building. So assets and agency relate very much to skill building. Contribution also includes youth engagement. And then the enabling environment is broken out into several different activities or features related to healthy relationships and bonding, to belonging and membership, to positive norms and expectations, to safe spaces, and then access to age-appropriate and youth-friendly services. So these are the features that we would expect to see in a positive youth development focused program. So I've now tried to apply this to the higher education sector. And just to preface this, this is not a complete list by all means. And we would really love to get your input, both in terms of the examples of what higher institutions can do, but then we'll also show some concrete examples of what higher education institutions are doing. And that's particularly where we need your help to get more of these good examples so that we can create a good list. And when we're going to higher education institutions and where they're asking about, so what can we do, that we have really good examples for them. So I broke this up into into 3 categories. What the higher education institutions can do, and that includes, we've included TVET as some of the examples. But also looking at what students can do, I think we should also, you know, in the spirit of agency, give, you know, obviously the students the agency to also contribute to this, and then what systems-wide changes might need to happen in some of these areas to develop a real PYD approach. So looking at assets and skill building in terms of what the institutions can do, one of the aspects would obviously be embedding more soft skills in courses or creating soft skills curricula. Another one would be additional teamwork and other soft skills building activities. And then from a more hard skill related aspect, and I think that came out of your last session also, engaging employers, potential employers, more in the curriculum development, in the courses that are taking place, and just in the skill building activities. From an agency perspective, you know, some of the examples that came to mind in terms of what institutions can do is giving youth agency or students agency by allowing them to fund clubs, by publishing good research papers that are sponsored by or that are developed by the students, by encouraging more co-authoring of papers with their professors, providing more speaking opportunities for students. And then obviously last but not least, giving youth a voice in the decision-making at the higher institution bodies and decision-making bodies. With regard to contributions, so youth engagement contribution, some of that overlaps with the agency aspect. Another thing from a university perspective is just to provide the stronger network of companies and organizations for internships and research activities. And very important, to be more inclusive. And that should be applied to all activities. And the inclusiveness can relate to LGBTIQ groups, or it can relate to minority groups. You know, very often what we hear from universities is when, especially for example, a first generation student comes to a university, they don't always feel welcome, and that prevents them sometimes from real contribution. So having that inclusive environment is truly important. And then with the enabling environment, I think mentoring is often underestimated, and so offering mentoring programs, creating for belonging and membership, creating, for example, peer-to-peer partnering for newcomers, but for others that are in the institution, for positive norms and expectations, you know, for the university to actually publicly publish positive norms, and then obviously walking the talk and implementing those norms. For safe spaces, that can include, again, some mentoring aspects. It can also include providing virtual safe spaces for networking, for support, providing mental health, for example. And then access to age-appropriate services and integration of services. I think it's just super important to look at youth as a whole person. And so recognizing some of the problems that youth may be facing, including abuse, mental health, and really incorporating that in the higher institution programs. So that's some of the examples that I thought from a higher education institution. Obviously, from a system-wide perspective, you know, creating curricula that at a national level that support more soft skills engagement, perhaps also including more civic engagement, including service, community service, more at a broader country level, engaging industry, and just establishing a requirement for youth inclusion. So I think those are things that could be created more at the system-wide level. And then I have also some examples of what the students can do. So I'll jump directly to the next page in the interest of time. So I've tried to pull up some examples that can be good inspiration for what universities can do. So one of the examples is the Puentes project in El Salvador. It's a USAID funded project. They had just fabulous relationships developed with the industries, and that allowed them to create a completely new TVET center that had new equipment that was provided by the industry. And so just offered, this partnership just offered completely new opportunities for the students. Other examples, and these are just really two examples because I know there are many other industry examples like SAPs and Microsoft. They have developed relationships with students, with recent graduates, and having those relationships with universities, also offering sometimes their own staff to become active and involved with students is really important, especially for some of the more digital skills that are required and where the universities may sometimes be lagging. Another example is providing more access to local research and student-led research. And so one of these examples is ESSA, which has created an African education research database. And what they do is they pull out publications that have been authored by African-based universities. And so I think it just provides new visibility to the local universities and local research. The University of Pretoria has done something different. They are involving their library to publish, to kind of provide support for self-publishing of papers. And so again, I think it's an opportunity for youth and for students to get more visibility. And then for digital skills, there have been several activities, especially driven by COVID, for facilitating digital skill development through the virtual Pan-African e-University, the Global Coalition for Education. And there are some other opportunities that help with the skill building activities and doing that in a cost-effective way also. So now talking about contribution and allowing more youth contribution. So I already mentioned the university library as a publisher at the University of Cape Town, which can help, but also allowing students to contribute more to their own environment, to their own community through community service that is really integrated into the university. And so, for example, in Kenya, one of the universities has developed a community service center that focuses on matching students with community service opportunities. And we know that community service, and they have proven that actually through the research that they have done, that the community service activities have led to incredible soft skills building for the students, which, as we know, is just really important. And then under the enabling environment, additional examples of what can be done, for example, is creating a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer at the university and making that a real position that helps youth and that has the task to creating an inclusive environment. Or another one is a policy on student mental health, which one of the universities has created, that really focuses on that, looking at youth as a whole person and not just as somebody who has to deliver grades at a certain level. And so providing these safe spaces and making youth feel more welcome. So these are just some of these examples that I found, but I know that there are many more out there. I know that we all know many examples, especially I think in the US environment or European environment. It's a little bit harder to find them in low and middle income countries. And we also know the context matters a lot. So we hope that you all will be able to help us with finding a lot more good examples in low and middle income countries that we can then showcase as models for this. So with that, I have a few more slides that I won't talk about, but just to let you know that there are lots of tools if you want to learn more about positive youth development, and we'll share the slides afterwards, where you can learn more about positive youth development. There is an online training, there's a measurement toolkit, and there are several other useful links that you can use to learn more about positive youth development. So with that, let me stop here and let me stop sharing.
Thank you so much. I think that was really interesting learning webinar on positive youth development. And I would like ask Katie to share the slides because we have 3 great questions from Maria and team related to the presentation, which we would like our members to discuss together with us. So we want to talk about gaps between higher education and positive youth development because we want to have foundation for potential product from our community that would be very useful for everyone who is interested in the sector. 3 questions. What could students do to incorporate positive youth development? From the presentation, we learned what is expected from youth, how they could contribute, like key dimensions where they could do so. Secondly, if we talk about next level, let's say meso, higher education institutions, how they could incorporate positive youth development approach. Maybe you work for university and you have some great ideas already doing something which you didn't know was positive youth development. And third, like macro level, how broader higher education system, and it was interesting in a chat that people proposed to include TVET as well, technical vocational education and training, into the system, how they could incorporate this new approach, not new, but I would say very innovative, inclusive, empowering our youth approach. So floor is yours. We have a couple of minutes to listen to your thoughts, ideas. Please do feel free. And after that, we will share an interesting document, which we will also work on together.
Thank you, Albina. We also have a couple of really great questions for Maria from the chat. So Maria, and they feed into the questions that Albina just mentioned. Maria, did you see the question about how PYD is touching upon youth participation in higher education decision-making, and wondering if there's success stories about PYD projects engaging student unions? And the second question about mentoring, which is getting harder and harder to manage because of so many influencers that influence that.
Yes, I think really good questions, and I think with regard to the unions, there have definitely been some examples in developed countries. I was looking for examples actually in developing countries and in low and middle income countries, and I couldn't find any. So I think anybody who is kind of on the call today, if you have any examples, please just raise your hand and speak up. We hope that to get some of those. I was looking, but I also didn't do a full systematic review of everything that is out there. So I'm sure that there are some examples out there. And with regard to involving influencers in the mentoring, I think that is really, really important. As I think, Liz, it was said, the social media just has become so incredible. And what some of the universities are doing is to at least create some awareness creation. So allowing youth to kind of alert the university when there are problems so that they can in some way intervene, but it's really difficult to intervene with bullying and these activities on social media. So having influencers that actually are peer influencers involved in the mentoring and in these activities is super important. And also leveraging social media for some of the mentoring activities so that you can perhaps identify challenges quicker rather than being surprised for them later on in the process.
Oh, we see great example from Joanna. Maybe she can tell herself a bit more.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I work a lot with youth in Mayan villages in Guatemala, and there is this global organization called Play for Peace, and they offered me their curricula so that during gardening sessions for kids and youth, we incorporate a lot of what has been talked about, teamwork, and emotional support, but also while they are doing gardening projects, they feel that that is a safe space for them to discuss issues that are affecting their communities, like gang violence, poverty, food insecurity, and others. So I'm going to put a link to my program in case that is of interest for anybody.
That's a very good example. Thank you, Joanna. And you just reminded me of something else that may be a good resource, which we can also provide a link to, which is we have a toolkit for youth centers that we recently published. And it actually has links to different curricula, free curricula that are available. And I think some of them also relate to social skills. So I will provide a link to that toolkit.
Joanna, I have a question for you. Are the youth in school, out of school? And what's the link with, is there a link with the universities in Guatemala, or faculty playing a role in the curriculum?
Yes. Am I unmuted? Yes, sorry. Yes, we mostly work with Texas A&M students here that are traveling to Guatemala as part of mission trips or as part of their internships, and we offer some grants for them as well. For short-term travel. We train them here on how to conduct the gardening activities and work with kids. Once they get down there, I am not currently working with other universities, but what I'm doing is getting the Play for Peace mentors down there to come over and do a training session in country as well before they start working with kids. And it's just a wonderful program. I just posted the link.
Oh, great.
And it is, I'm sorry, it also includes the Junior Master Gardener curricula developed here at Texas A&M University. So I am involving faculty from here, from A&M on the program.
That's terrific. Thank you. We need to learn more about this. I know we have in the community, we have faculty from like Virginia Tech who work on similar issues. Thank you. Oh, Khaled.
Also, we see Thomas, he shared his project in Senegal. Maybe he could tell himself a bit more.
Sure, thank you. And thank you, everyone. It's great to be in this community with you today. So yeah, through our USAID supported project in Senegal called Feed the Future Senegal Youth in Agriculture, which is started in 2017, implemented by Virginia Tech. We are working with the government of Senegal, specifically the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation, to culturally adapt and institutionalize a PYD program modeled after 4-H in the US. So probably most of you know about 4-H, but it's the youth development arm of the cooperative extension system through the US land grant and cooperative extension institution network, dating back actually about 120 years in 4-H's case. Lisa Loxman, who's on the call, can tell you much more about 4-H than I, but I was formerly a 4-H educator myself in upstate New York. And there are 4-H programs in a number of countries around the world, including constituting a network. But we're really in an excellent position for institutionalization because the ministry has really bought in. So in relation to the 3 levels on the slides, we have clubs that are in some cases school-age kids and out-of-school youth, but we have a lot of clubs that are actually university-level clubs. So they're university students, usually undergraduate level, so they're still considered youth as well. And they have their own clubs focused on gardening or agriculture, and then oftentimes also entrepreneurship and personal development. And then at the higher ed institutions level, our 4-H Senegal program is anchored at 7 regional public universities across Senegal, well, 8, including the virtual university that they've launched in the past few years. And then when the broader higher education system, at least in Senegal, that's represented by the fact that our national office is situated within the ministry offices. So we're working on essentially, I mean, we don't even like the term handover because we've been collaborating with them from the very beginning. So that when the USAID funding is concluded, the 4-H Senegal PYD program embedded within the higher ed system in Senegal will continue. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Also, I think before we go to Matrix, we will share, there is interesting discussion going on about COVID and how it impacted PYD in higher education, universities, systems, students. And Eric was saying that actually such approach, it needs more face-to-face format, like skills development. So it's kind of not, Zoom is not the same. Eric, could you please share why you think so?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that the fundamental aspect of this is people engaging each other face to face and communicating. And so that's obviously very different when you're on an online format. So I think it does limit the effectiveness of these approaches when you can't really do that. I would say one example that I had is when I was talking to our partner university in Indonesia, Sampurna University. They do they sort of use a US-based career services model with their students, where they do training and work with them on writing a resume, interview skills, and basic communication, professional communication. And they would normally do that face to face, and but due to COVID in Indonesia, they recently had a career fair type of thing where they did it all virtually. They said it worked really well. I mean, they were able to do more. I mean, it reached more young people because of the ability for people anywhere to access that program. But it was all done virtually. So that probably limits the ability of folks. But if you're doing interviews now virtually via Zoom or another online video format, then I guess practicing interview skills using those technologies may be what we need to do now. So that was kind of interesting.
It's like new normal, as they call it.
Yeah,
and
maybe that's yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. We have youth here, so maybe let's listen to what they say. We have Maya. Maya, could you please share your youth project experience? And I see you guys organizing food security event as young people. So let's listen to Maya. Maya, don't feel shy.
Yes, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you here. Yes, as I mentioned, I'm now, according for youth projects, I'm just working with my own social projects, tourism and smart cities, and other youth project on education topic, which name is Challenge. It's oriented to young people for growing up their professional and soft skills. And according to the event, I can say that as a coordinator of volunteers at Ban Ki-moon Institute for Sustainable Development in my country, I'm just organizing with our UN representative and also with a representative from CEO Marketing Agency from Africa. We are just organizing this event coding for relevance of food security as a tool of success in the frameworks of Tropics Day. As all of you know, that 29th of July, every young people are just celebrated International Tropics Day. So we are just preparing for that. And if someone is interested, please join us.
Absolutely.
And
which country?
yeah.
Kazakhstan.
Yes, I'm from Kazakhstan.
So we have youth from Central Asia. Thank you, Maya.
Yeah.
Maria, would you like to talk about spreadsheet? We have time concerns. I'm sorry.
Yes, so just very briefly, these are some fabulous examples, and we'll definitely already, we've already taken note of those, but I'm sure that some other examples may come to mind once you're thinking about it, or you may not have had time to talk about it. So we've created this spreadsheet, and we'll share the link for it. It's just a Google document, and it has 3 tabs. So this first one just shows the overview, and then the next tab, there's 1 tab for each of the categories. So this one is assets and agency. Then there is a tab for contribution, and then there is a tab for the enabling environment. And what we'd like you to do is any examples that you have, just put them below that yellow line. So we've made it very simple, just the title of the project or the title of the research that you're aware of, and then a short description of why you think that is particularly relevant, and a link, and then just tell us who you are and the contact information, so that if we want to follow up with you, that we can follow up with you. So just very simply, if you can put that in, because then we can, once we pull it all together, we can say, you know, so-and-so has contributed to this paper, but also if we have any questions, we can come and follow up with you on those. So we would love for you to include some of these examples in there, and we'll share it also with those that haven't been able to join our call today. And then hopefully this will be a really great resource for all of you, so that you can also learn from each other. Any questions about the spreadsheet? No? Oh, there's some question, I think.
Yes, of course. My name is Abbas Hamza from Ghana. Sorry, I joined the meeting a bit late. I guess I've missed a lot of information or discussions that you have had prior to me joining. So I wanted to find out if all these resources are going to be shared in addition to the recording, so that we can appropriately follow up and then take the needed action. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for coming. I put in a chat to you, like reply, that on our website there will be recording, slides, our contacts.
Okay, so my second question, or if you like, a suggestion is has something to do with our girls education program. We are currently running in Ghana. So we are raising funds to ensure that girls are able to stay in school because of the COVID-19 lockdowns and restrictions negatively impacted a lot on the educational sector. And in Ghana, the situation is worse as a result of the government introduction of free senior high education system, whereby the amount of money girls and young women used to pay to go to secondary school or tertiary education has been absorbed by government. So it has tripled the enrollment rate in the schools, forcing them to adapt what we call a double track system, whereby students no longer attend school in one academic year. They are divided into subgroups. So once one batch is in school, 2 or 3 batches are waiting in the house. And it has also substantially reduced the number of contact hours that students used to have when the double track system were not being implemented. So it has led to girls and young women spending more time with boys and men than ever. So this has contributed to high rate of teenage pregnancy, SRHR issues, school dropouts, and then basically what I'm just trying to say that the right to education for girls has been severely affected. So for instance, last month we identified over 350 girls who were pregnant because their session ended and they went home to wait for the others to also go to school and come back before they go. So it was very difficult, and we are still facing the challenge of ensuring that these pregnancies do not prevent the girls and young women from going back to school when their tenure is up. So that is what we are doing in Ghana. And when it comes to tertiary education, that is a whole new complex issue together, which time will not allow me to say everything here. So I'm hoping I'm hoping that we can link and then we continue the discussion from here and see how we can put our heads together to be able to do something about this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Abbas. This is, I mean, you're putting your finger on a very difficult question. And maybe we could have a session just focused on issues of gender and access to education for girls and how universities can play a role in helping moderate those risks of dropping out because of pregnancy, free time, and so on and so forth. So park this, let's take this idea, put it in the list of topics that we should address. Thank you so much. It's terrific. Thank you. Thank you. We're running out of time, so I think we should just make plans for next time. Albina, do you want to share the next steps or?
Yeah, I can do. I'm happy. Thanks for internet, for new normal, so that we can meet Abbas and so many other people from all over the world. We had today around 40 people joining us, which I think is great. And I was putting in a chat that we have this platform, usepower.org. So if you join, register, and you put discussion posts, many people from all over the world will reply to you, learn about your project, will help you. This is why we're joining this community. About our next steps, also when you join, you will be able to receive emails from us. So we will notify you about the date of our next meeting, about our agenda, our plans, and we will very carefully read spreadsheets that you will hopefully fill in with your contacts, with the projects, examples of how youth engaging in your country, in universities, any transformations happening, to have more youth voice. Please do share in a chat. What else, Yolanda? Would you like to add something?
Yes, so next meeting is going to be September 2nd. We're skipping August because everyone's on vacation, but Albina and I are working on this, and we are planning on organizing a virtual cafe on September 2nd with donors, and especially with USAID as a start, where youth organizations and university, higher education institutions, representatives in this community of practice can bombard USAID with questions. We're going to try to get a group of USAID folks to participate. So stay tuned for that. That'll be September 2nd. If anyone wants to present a program in the fall, in October, November, December, let us know. We will make it happen. We do have the topics selected on sustainable tourism, but we also have girls' education, which is a new one that we could tackle. Please keep an eye on the Youth Power platform, because that's how we communicate. Make sure you register, share this community of practice with your friends, your colleagues in universities, in higher education institutions, and in youth programs.
Thanks
and
for
don't
coming.
hesitate to contact us.
See you next time.
So when do we hope to receive the links and the presentation materials and the recording?
So you need to register on the HEET website, and we post everything on there: discussions, resources, the recording of the meetings, all of it. And Albina just put the link in the chat. So just go there, everything that's your treasure box.
And register. Yeah. So
and
then
register. You got to register.
Yeah, because if you go now, it's kind of closed community. So you need to register in the, I think, right upside part.
Before you can have access to. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's great.
And not only this meeting, you have access to previous recordings, presentations. We just started in March. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can post any questions, like if you need help, people will see your post. We have around 135 members, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you so
Maya,
much.
I don't know how you do the heart, but I love it. You all rock. You are wonderful. I'm learning, and I hope you're learning. This is absolutely terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, see you in September. Bye.
See you in September. Bye.
Bye.